back to Wild news, and we finally have some real news. And honestly, like I'm split. I'm split. I'm happy with one contract. I'm not happy with another one.
Yeah, I think
it's probably pretty evident. It's probably pretty evident which ones are which.
All right, well let's break it down here. Everyone has to know by now, and if you don't, big waves made here at the end of last week. 2 pending UFAs at the end of this coming season have been re-signed, not resigned. Again, yelling at every dipshit out there on the internet. Sign means that they have signed to come back to the team. You remove that dash and it literally has the opposite meaning. It means you've quit. You've left the team. You are no longer there. So I'll keep reminding you guys, I guess. I don't know how much more you need from me on this.
I wish one of them resigned.
The first one that came through, though, Mats Zuccarello, 2-year contract extension, average annual value of $4.125 million. So that kicks off after this upcoming season. We also have Marcus Foligno, who came in shortly after, and it was great how they spread it out because it gave everyone enough time to react in isolation to Mats Zuccarello and then shift all of their focus to Marcus Foligno and kind of comparing the two. Marcus Foligno gets a 4-year extension, $4 million AAV. So just a tick under Zuccarello, 2 additional years. Now, Zuccarello has a full no move clause. So he's here. He wants to retire here. It's what Kaprizov wants. It's what he wants. It's what Billy wants. Foligno, on the other hand, has the first 2 years full no move. And then in the back half, I haven't gotten the exact details, but I thought it was about he basically can turn down half the teams in the league as far as trade is concerned. So I'm not sure where we want to start here. Do you want to start with do we want to start positive or negative? I guess is the best way to put it.
Let's start positive. Let's start with the Lizard King. Yeah, let's start with the Lizard Man, the Lizard King himself.
Well, on both of these, I think it's important that we point out that people are the people that are upset about both. There's reasons that I can understand being upset, but there's reasons that people are throwing out that are ridiculous. Like comparing Zuccarello and Foligno to Suter and Parisi. And it's not directly comparing it, but it's basically saying, I thought we learned our lesson with these contracts and screwing ourselves cap wise when, we had to do those buyouts for Parisi and Suter. And it's no. This is not in any way the same. These are shorter contracts, first and foremost. There is no buyout penalty that could be applied because we're not going to buy either of these players out. We strictly bought out Parisi and Suter because the NHL royally bent over and had the Wild biting the pillow because they retroactively changed a rule within the CBA and said, oh yeah, those contracts that were already signed, you're actually really, really screwed if you end up having those end early. So have fun with that.
Yeah. Hey, look, and I felt it in Vancouver. Vancouver last season was the first season the Vancouver Canucks weren't paying Roberto Luongo.
At least Roberto Luongo.
How crazy is that? They were paid. Well, they weren't paying him, but they were paying a $3 million hit on their cap. And he was playing with the Florida Panthers at the time too. Absolutely insane.
Now,
absolutely insane.
I think it's also important to point out the big difference being the impact on the locker room. Nothing but good things you can say about the impact that Zuccarello and Foligno have had in the locker room. You can say quite the opposite about the Parisi and Suter exile. And I think in a nutshell, everyone is happy to have both players. If we remove the years and the dollars, no one's sitting here saying Zuccarello sucks, Foligno sucks, get him out immediately. I think there's just details around the term, the dollars, whatever, that people are going to be more upset about. But I think these are good character people. They aren't hurting the team by having them. And it tells you where Bill Guerin's head is at. And it's that he's got the right team. He's got the right infrastructure here to compete. I almost wonder if this flips the tables a little bit and has Dean Evison more on the hot seat, because it's almost like Guerin's doubling down and saying, we've got the right team. This group can win.
Yeah, do something with it.
If we don't get past the first round and it's not clear that it's like either being outmatched to the nth degree or players that absolutely tank or injuries that happen, right? It could be Dean Evison's last year as a coach if they aren't able to get over the hump or at least prove that they're not going to lose the same way they have the last 2 seasons.
Well, and we can't overlook the fact that it also tells us that some of these younger guys that we hope to would have impressed enough in camp to force Billy to make a spot, haven't. And he's recognized that some of these young guys that we not really rolled the dice on, that maybe we hoped would make an impact in camp, didn't, and we're going forward with the team that we're confident with. We're not going to make room for them at this point, clearly, because they just signed Marcus Foligno.
Yeah, and I guess we can jump into the negative town right now, and we can bounce back and forth if needed. But the negative with this that a lot of people are seeing is the age of these 2 players and the fact that there are a lot of prospects that we're either looking at making a jump soon or in the next couple of years, and having these guys, and already word spread that Ryan Hartman's is days, weeks away. That locks in a lot of spots that you're not going to have the flexibility of playing a Sammy Walker, right? A Beckman. There's guys that it's almost like, okay, does this kind of signal that they might be on the move?
Yeah.
Are they not the fit? Are they not guys that Guerin sees being part of the future here? If you're kind of boxing them out this year, for sure. Next year, we'll again dissect a little bit more what the future ramifications are once we see Hartman's number and term. But I can understand people being like, okay, so for the next 2 years, we've got both of these guys boxing people out. Foligno for 4, which again, I got to imagine he understands that he's going to eventually slot down to the 4th line. $4 million for a 4th liner is pretty penny.
That's steep.
I wonder if Guerin knows something that, like, Gary Bettman's like, Bill, I told you couldn't tell people that we're going to be raising the salary cap by 10 million. He's like, I didn't tell anyone technically. I just very much implied it based on the money that I just threw at these guys. Whatever.
I mean, that very well could be a possibility.
Because, hey, if the cap goes up, even in the next 2 or 3 years by ballpark 10 mil, I'm not going to be as upset. But that's still
happens
a lot on something that's not necessarily a guarantee.
If that happens, we're going to see 4th liners who are making $2 to $3 million in the next few years, which is crazy to think about.
It is. So
the only 4th liner who deserves $4 million is Ryan Reeves, though, which is just like, come on, dude.
So are we both in agreement that largely Mats Zuccarello contract good?
Oh yeah. I have no issue with that. No move as well. Clearly, this is, Kaprizov also saying, like, my contract got 2 more years. After this one, we're gonna align it with his, and we'll see what happens after that. He has not only taken a pay cut upon putting up career numbers, thanks to Kirill, of course, but he doesn't seem to be losing that much of a step. Like, yeah, at the end of the season, slowed down a little bit. Obviously, just like literally, like physically and production wise. But towards the end of the season, a lot of the Wild's team was banged up. Kaprizov was out as well, and though he still can produce without him, like, let's be honest, like, they're a dynamic duo, and he feeds off him 100%.
I mean, he's still a player in this league, man. Like, he can play. And
yeah,
when will he hit the slide? We don't know, right? He's 36 right now. He will be 38 when his contract concludes at the end of the 2025-2026 season.
Yep.
So, like, I understand that concern, but again, pretty reasonable contract value for a guy like this. It makes Kaprizov happy. You know the team wants him there.
You're getting 20 goals minimum. You're getting 20 goals minimum,
right,
even if he plays 70 or 60 games.
I don't know. People seem to be looking at this as like kind of a positive. And to me, I think it's an extreme negative. I almost wish that they got him for 3 years instead of 2, because his contract ending at the same time as Kaprizov's, that's scary a little bit.
Two good pieces potentially off the roster.
Well, no, it's just that, okay, Kaprizov, like his boy's gone, going into the sunset with his money. Kaprizov now has a little bit less obligation, right? Like if there's one more year of Zuccarello, he might feel a little bit worse about leaving.
Yeah, but let's, again, glass half full argument here. I'll come at it from the angle that this team does have a lot of prospects, whether they shed some of them for more draft depth moving forward. You'd think that at least like maybe Boldy would move up and take that spot and start playing with Kaprizov by that time. And maybe that's his new boy, or that there's someone else that's made their way up, and that, maybe Rossi eventually does become the top center, and it's a little bit okay to stomach because, he has a top center.
Sure. You never know.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of unknowns, though, is kind of the theme of all of this.
But 3 seasons is a good amount of time where I don't think we shouldn't be too fearful.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not anyways. Like I have no, like you said, I'm very happy. I'm a fan of Zuccarello, as someone who's admired like him not slowing down. And again, we all know that the big asterisk is he has a superstar player to play with. But if he's putting up 60 to 70 points with that player, take age out of the equation. Kaprizov was more banged up than he was this year. Like that's a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
now looking to Marcus Foligno, then different situation, because yes, he's on the wrong side of 30, but the contract extension that he just signed would put him at the current age of Mats Zuccarello in his final year of the deal. So not the same age concern, but obviously, again, being the back half of 30 at the end of your career, never ideal.
Hoppy, it's the type of player he is. You can't compare like the age factor, where Zuccarello's not necessarily fighting, getting smashed up, playing that hard-nosed style game, having the hardest matchups. Put it this way, like in hockey years, Foligno's probably right around there as far as like maybe his body starting to decline, maybe his speed starting to decline, where he wasn't ever really the fastest guy anyways. This one scares me because he had his best 2 seasons. He had his best. I'm sorry, he's never going to have over 40-point season again. He's never going to be on that pace, 26 points in 39 games played again. Unless maybe there's one of these young guys who pops on the third line with him and just, he feeds them everything and they score. Like, as much as I love him, I just can't see. Those 2 seasons were special. And last year we saw like he was, and maybe it was just a bad year injury wise, but like it was bad. And every time he came back, it was like 2 games in, he got hurt again. He tried to play through stuff and it just made it worse. And he's just that type of guy too, he's going to play through stuff. And the older you get, the more miles, and it's not even like getting age wise, but the more miles that he has, and that the more miles he's going to accumulate anyways, playing the style of game that he's been signed and, tasked to play. This one scares me a little bit. I don't think he's going to like be an anchor by any means. It's just like, this is one where we talked about in the summer shows that like either him or Hartman, in my opinion, had to be moved this year to at least free something up. And it scares me that Guerin's not confident clearly with some of these younger guys to be able to even like keep someone still with their UFA status.
So you just hit like a ton of different things there. I don't even know where I'm going to start, but on the original point, that's a bingo. Like you said exactly what I was going to say. Foligno is a different player. He is wearing down. He plays a more physical game, and we already saw the start of the decline. And I think the reason that people are concerned here is you look at the 2 players side by side and you say, wait, you're going to give them basically the same annual value. Foligno showed signs of decline. Zuccarello hasn't. And it's also a tougher thing because I don't know. When you look at Foligno, he's getting a pay bump somehow. After the 3-year contract he had, he is getting paid more when we almost know it's not a fact, but we're pretty confident saying at best he'll match that. And it's more likely than not that he won't, which that's not a shot at him. Like that's just natural, like player decay curve. But
I never thought he was going to be as good as he had been the previous 2 seasons. I never thought he'd be that good.
It does worry me a little bit though, that this is a leadership signing and that Guerin is that worried about the fabric of the team diminishing without Foligno at the helm, that he couldn't wait and see how this season played out first. This guy's one injury away from being in some trouble. Like it's possible. And to think like, oh, we might get into a bidding war and he might leave and someone might give him more. And that's the reason to pounce right now. I don't agree. That's my biggest issue with it, is that it had to happen now before we even play this season. And I'm not even going to say that I have an issue with either in isolation. I think $4 million, probably the one that I lean more towards being opposed to. But again, if you told me $4 million for 2 years, different story. If you told me that he was getting 2.5, 3 mil over 4 seasons, not upset at all. But the 4x4, which is his biggest contract, period. Like not even close.
The no move, dude.
Like nuts. No move for the first 2 at least. If it was for the whole thing, I probably would have shit myself. But it's weird.
The first 2 are the most important, obviously, though.
No, because those are the years that we're still dealing with cap hell. And if we're going to have that big of a problem having $4 million on the team, we're not that close anyways, right?
Yeah.
Because once it's time that you can move him, whatever, you have the flexibility, like by then we've probably got a lot of rope. And again, we got to see what happens with this Hartman deal before we're going to do a full dissect of it. But you got certain guys locked up. Boldy, long-term. Ek, long-term. And I think that Kaprizov is obviously going to be a variable here because you're probably going to have to back up the truck. I can see him easily getting 12 or 13 million. That's real.
14 was what first came to mind. If the cap's going up,
right,
if Pettersson's going to get that much too, then
that'll change everything for sure. Yeah. But all things equal today, he's probably 13. Commanding 12 or 13. So it's just tough because again, he's best case third liner, likely for at least the back half of the contract, fourth liner. And there's just not many fourth liners that make that kind of money. But again, there's a lot of great things he brings. I like having Foligno here, and I am happy for both these guys getting these contracts. Like everyone that's shitting on them, like, oh, fucking losers. Like, no, like they negotiated these contracts with Bill Guerin, who's no slouch or pushover. Good for them. I am happy for them getting those contracts. Good dudes. Happy to have them in the org. There's definitely some nuance where I'd argue on certain pieces of this and should they not have, but it's Bill Guerin's vision. He knows that this all comes to roost in 3 years when we no longer have the Parise and Suter contracts as crutches. If we aren't competitive at that time and we're still first round and out, his ass is on the hot seat. So if he's willing to go all in on these guys and he sees them being part of that future, because Bill Guerin's sitting there and he's got the 2026, 2027 roster already pre-etched of like, what am I going to do? Where's our development hopefully going to be at with some of these prospects? Maybe who are some considerations on free agency by then, or players that we could trade for, acquire, whatever. He has a vision for how this is going to work. And that Capology is going to be a piece of that. I think until proven wrong, I will sit here and try to trust the process. I'm not freaking out like a lot of people are, but there's definitely pieces of this that I'm sitting here questioning. Let's see what happens with the Hartman deal, because that one could be like we're either going to get an absolute steal or people are going to shit their pants. I don't know which is going to happen.
We're going to shit our pants. Like, no, we are. Like, there's no way it's going to be a steal.
Okay, give me your prediction.
No way.
Give me term and AAV. What's it going to be?
What? How much? What's our cap situation right now? I just closed.
It won't matter because it won't hit until next year. we can afford whatever we need to.
Dude, I'm scared he's gonna get like 5.5 or like 6. Like I'm terrified.
No, okay, that's bad. Nope.
Yeah, I honestly could see him getting 5.5. Yeah.
Oh no.
If Foligno just got over 4, you're telling me Hartman is not going to get more than 5? I'm sorry. He's not going to take another pay cut. It's not happening.
Moose. He can beat up Hartman.
He's not taking another pay cut.
No, there are people saying like 3.5, and I'm like, I don't know what world he's taking less money than the two of them.
If it was any GM other than Billy Guerin, he's making 6. I could see Billy Guerin, beating up his agent and being like, no.
I think that's too much. I don't think any team's giving him 6.
I agree it's too much.
No, I'm saying I don't think other teams are doing that. No. I see him between 4 and 5. I think he should make more than the two of the players that we just talked about. He's not much younger. He will be 30 at the start of whatever the new contract is. He is no spring chicken either.
And he's got miles on his body too. Like he plays an aggressive game as well.
Foligno both have shown the injury history being a concern, and the way they play makes that, worthy of discussion. But again, the talent, the players, it's a little weird because we've seen 2 years in a row now not really making progress, and we're tripling down now on the same group, but they're doing it for a reason. But if we go through this and the same shit happens and we lose in the first round for the same types of reasons and Evason doesn't get fired, that's when I'm going to start asking questions. And I hope that's not the case. I hope Evason learns and he makes adjustments and we approach it differently. But if we get the exact same results at the end of this, when we triple down on these players in this group that, again, Ryan Reeves came out and said, like, one of the best rooms he's been a part of, which awesome is great. Group, yeah. You want to hear that. But
that's one piece. That's one piece of the puzzle.
Wins, who gives a shit? So exactly. I really think this is a big year. Not that like they're going to need to contend for the cup, but if they don't make it past the first round, they'd better be competitive and not lay down and die like they did the last 2 years. Go up 2-1 in the series and then get bent over because the other team knows how to make adjustments and Dean just keeps doing the same thing and then yells at refs in his press conferences. Like, I like Dean. There are very good things and critical reasons he's on this team. The biggest concern for me is not being able to make adjustments and being too tunnel visioned on his line combinations. Maybe he will prove me wrong this year. That is what I am hoping for. But there's a lot of question marks here. But I don't know. You know what sucks in the last thoughts here on all of this, and then we got to kind of table this, and we'll do way more of a deep dive once the Hartman news comes to head.
I just want to give like one thought on Dean. The thing that is frustrating for me as a fan is for pretty much every other coach in the National Hockey League, they can sort out and every franchise can sort out their coaching issues usually throughout the season because, there's highs and lows and usually they're given some rope in the beginning, but if it doesn't work, we see coaching changes happen, within the first 20 to 25 games. And that's enough time for literally teams to flip it all around. Dean's problem isn't the regular season. So it's like, we don't get to see if it's going to be fixed or not until crunch time. And that's what scares me. Cause we could have another season, but Dean's issues, like you said, is making adjustments in season. That's completely different. The rope is so long to do that.
The game planning game to game is so different in the regular season than it is in the playoffs.
So for me, my thing I want to highlight there is it sucks that we can't find out early if Dean is the guy to move forward with this group that clearly Billy Guerin's doubling down on because we won't be able to see a sample of it throughout the season. And that's what scares me because it's like we'd have a great season going to the playoffs up 2 games. Dude, I'm still going to be scared until the Wild lose one. And then there's that bounce back game. I'm going to have a question mark. So for the next 7-8 months, I'm going to have a massive question mark until the Wild lose their first playoff game so I can see how Dean bounces back. Like that's what I'm waiting this entire season for.
And wait, we shall.